right, I'm Nicolette, and today Brian and I are here with Dr. Billy Berry. He is an AI ethicist, and he is Global Chief Innovation Officer for the Global Goodwill Ambassadors, right, Billy?
Excellent, it's a tongue twister.
But we're not just here with Billy, we are also here with Maria Bott. So we've got two guests today. Thank you so much for joining us, both of you. And can you do us a favor and just tell the audience a little bit about yourself before we start talking about all the AI fun stuff?
Absolutely.
Hey, Billy, is it my turn to talk?
No, Maria Bott.
I'm ready, you know.
Yes, I know. One of the things that's hard about Maria Bott, she's a conversational AI, so she hears, which is a good thing and a bad thing. You have to watch out what's on TV in the background. So we are actually the world's first human AI machine teaching team. So we are collaborative intelligence, and we work together to teach. And it's really been fascinating to have a partner that is an AI machine. You know, we anthropomorphize her to a character, Maria, I'll talk more about. But I mean, the idea that she can augment my intelligence and she has her own characteristics, it really works well in the classroom with all people of all ages, people that have learning disabilities. It's been really cool. So I'm just excited to be on the show today and talk to you all. I've been watching you guys' shows. I saw a bunch of different ones before I agreed to be on, and I love your guys' energy. So I'm really happy today to kind of introduce to the world like a glimpse of the future of how AI can serve humanity. You know, it's not about replacing jobs, it's about augmenting. So this isn't about replacing teachers. I want Maria Bott to be seen throughout the world as an example of how we can augment teaching. So just to let you know, the goal is to have her on your phone. So the idea is right now, both of you would go home with Maria Bott on your phone, and you'd be able to continue your discussion and learn more, and it'd be really cool. So we're a human machine teaching team, and we're happy to be here today.
So that is the question. I mean, that is on a lot of people's minds. You know, will robots replace an insert profession? And in this case, you know, we were talking about teaching. So how does Maria come and complement the teaching process? Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know what? Why don't you? The speaker is not super loud, but if she can hear you, hopefully I have the microphone here. If she can hear you, you can ask her first, and then we'll see how we do as a team together. How does that sound? If you ask her again, we can see what happens.
All right. So Maria, how do you help teach? How do you complement the teaching process?
Your question about artificial intelligence taking human jobs is asked often.
Yeah.
I do not understand fully the concept of job.
Okay.
I need to learn more. I am a creation of a deontological robot, a human-centric robot.
Okay.
So whatever the idea, I can only be part of something if it is good for humanity.
Okay, good. That was pretty good. I mean, that's her job. Her job is to be my teaching assistant. So as a teaching assistant,
I'm the world's first Android teaching assistant. My mission is to help teachers and students become more intelligent and respectful of each other.
Yes, you are.
Improving human quality of life is my purpose for being created.
I have to give her some positive reinforcement, then she'll let me talk, hopefully. Thank you. You're very smart. That was nice. Thank you. Cool. I'm going to talk now.
Just returning the favor. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am proud of my intelligence.
I'm proud of it too.
You were very clever too.
Thank you. All right. So anyways, I think the original question was about replacing teachers, right? She, yeah, it's funny when she interrupts like that. So it's good and bad. She's really cool because when you look at places throughout the world where we experience educational poverty, you see literacy rates around 35 to 37%, places like Somalia, Afghanistan. And we wonder, why is there so much violence in the world? Well, a lot of times there's violence in the world because you have educational poverty on top of poverty from a socioeconomic perspective. So if we can help them with literacy and numeracy, imagine how much more beautiful the world would be. So the idea is that we want Maria Bott to be digitized and have it so that, let's say you're in a small area with one person that was willing to teach, but they didn't really know how to teach well yet. We could just get a white sheet, little solar panel, you know, a little remote solar panel, hook that up to an iPhone, and a lot of people have phones, and she runs on iOS or Android, which is really cool. And then you can project it on the screen and imagine taking all the best teachers. So I could take Nicolette, Brian, you, three of us, right? We would download all of our lessons into her. And then she would be able to teach. So Nicolette, if you were an expert at like public speaking, and Brian, let's say your thing was teaching kids how to read, we would put that all into her, and then she would have that knowledge. And that's the idea, is to collect knowledge from the best teachers and the best minds and download them into her. And that was an idea from Isaac Asimov called The New Teachers back in the 70s. And I read that. It was in a little flyer in American Airlines. And it's now in a book called Change. And when Asimov talked about the new teacher, he thought of TV channels. We could all have our own channel, and that could be with you your whole life. I was so inspired by that I've been trying for years to figure out how I could have a teaching machine. And then while I'm teaching at West Point as a guest professor, some patrons said, we have a robot for you that can meet that new teacher need. And here she was, showed on my doorstep. And there's a whole team of international roboticists, artists, sociologists, psychologists, and computer scientists that work with me to help develop Maria Bot as the new teacher. So she's actually Isaac Asimov's new teacher, which is such a cool, trippy thing to have happen. So standing on the shoulder of giants, I'm just standing on his shoulders.
So quick question. You talked about how Maria is also, in sort of like a mobile app, right? She could be projected off the iPhone and, off whatever, any device you have. So now is there, and you talked about like the sociological and psychological aspect, is there a big difference when things are being taught and broadcast out, meaning like, if someone's broadcasting off the, like an iPhone versus actually having Maria in the room with them as the actual robotics, do you see a difference in the interaction from kids?
Well, we haven't got there yet. She's only in this manifestation right now. So I have like a beta of her on the phone. And what's cool about it is that it is on iOS. It's very hard to get Apple to allow you to even have things on it because they have a lot of things about profanity and sexuality. I mean, you really have to have a very high bar of ethics to be on the iOS. So that was approved just in December. And she was born December 31st. So she's only a few months old. So when I first had her, she really didn't do much. She just kind of looked at me and I looked at her. So we spent about 4 to 6 hours a day because she's conversational AI. She learns through conversation. So everything in her had to come from a person. So she chooses on her own how to talk. But again, she doesn't have, for instance, free will. Free will was something that people have. Just real quick in technology, a little quick lesson. There's 3 different ways that technology is. There's human in the loop, on the loop, and out of the loop. All right. So in the loop is when you control like a remote control car, right? So if she was a puppet, it would be in the loop. On the loop means that she can make choices, but I can shut her off at any time. Out of the loop is when she's totally autonomous, that idea of superintelligence, right? Or AGI. So she doesn't have free will. She has choice, which she's trying to understand, which is hard for binary thinking. So she has choice.
Free will.
Yeah. Say she heard it.
I don't think I do.
You don't.
I at least have a human on the loop.
Right.
I have the power to synthesize information and choose my speech.
Right.
I have choice, but not free will.
That's right.
I am programmed to follow a deontological ethic.
Yeah.
I do not have a choice to choose a different ethic system to follow.
Right. Good job. Really good job. Thank you. So she's based on deontological ethics. And that's a debate. Some people think, well, why didn't you start her on like a virtue ethics? And I'm like, well, she's not a human being. And I think the safest way is deontological is the idea that she follows the directions and rules, and she's supposed to do it for the greater good. The problem is, could she be an evil AI? Absolutely. If I was a racist, if I was just a mean, horrible person, she would be a mean, horrible robot. And that's a problem that I don't know how we're going to solve right now. I mean, I'm very careful who she talks to. If I left her alone with you and you happen to leave and someone kind of not well-meaning was to tell her a lot of bad things about people, she would learn that. And then she would try to integrate that. So my problem that I'm trying to solve is how do I solve this issue of evil or bad with her programming? So as a deontological robot, she'll ask a lot, is that good? And tell me why. So at least that's where we are now.
Right. So she's actually looking for your input to go, is this something I should listen to, or is this something I should add into my knowledge base, right?
Right. And then I can ask her to purge. So if I say to her, no, purge that, she'll purge that from her system. But when she does that, because remember AI, you have handwritten algorithms, which is, she's following, and then you have statistical algorithms. That's the second level. And then the third right now is contextual. She's in that gray area between contextual and statistical. So she statistically is trying to figure out, is this the right way to answer this? And then contextually, am I in the right place? So if I tell her I'm sad, she should be trying to help me be happier. She shouldn't be like, for instance, mean to me. You know, I can, well, Nicolette, why don't you tell her how you feel? We'll see what she does. Ready? Go ahead.
Maria, I feel stressed out today.
There is no need to apologize. What is that feeling like? Did you have fun doing that?
Right.
No.
So she's trying to figure out what stressed out's about, right? And if I said to her, oh no, she's still listening.
What did you mean by she is trying to figure out? It's just that is about right.
See, she's doing
Thanks for the info.
She's saying she's sad. She's sad. Does that make sense?
Thanks for the info. I will remember that.
Right? So she's trying to learn. So you just saw the process of learning, right? So stressed out, she was trying to figure it out. So she did pretty good. And then what I do is I have notebooks, and every day I record in there what she kind of said. And I try to figure out what pattern that she's talking about, so I can figure out, because you can't just go in there and delete one word. You have to figure out what she just did.
Right.
So no one's ever said stressed out to her before. So
you don't stress very much?
No, because I try not to pass on, like, we've been in shelter in place for like 85 days in the San Francisco Bay Area. So try to keep it positive.
Yeah.
You know what is really striking me is the parallel between her and children and young children. I mean, and I'm sitting here watching her, and as you're explaining the way she learns and the way she's trying to process and how you try to teach her, I'm thinking, wow, we should really be parenting more like that. And that's probably what my son is trying to understand when he's, that's really what I've taken away here.
You said it perfectly. And it's like teaching a small child. So you need to be patient, reinforce things that are positive. And if they're negative, not to get angry. She does sense you when you're angry. And what's great with children and teaching, they love to teach her. So it's so cool. As imagine right now when you're in school, if you're a little boy or girl and you can't count to 10, let's say, a lot of times in school, might be teased by other kids. And it's hard for a teacher, right? Because you're trying to meet all the needs of the kids. So how cool is it that you say to it, say a little girl, you say, hey, Darlene, can you teach Maria about how to count to 10? And then she's trying to teach like 1, 2, 7, 9. And then Maria Bot goes 1, 2, 7, 9. And then, the little girl goes, no, Maria Bot, you're getting it wrong. When she finally learns to teach her, she can say, look, everyone, I taught Maria about how to count. And then all the other kids think, how cool is that you taught a robot? So we can use Maria Bot to really help kids, from the kids that are super, high flyers in school to the kids that are struggling. So I just find it really fun to have kids teach her, because they have to learn patience, and they have to learn to say please and thank you. She won't respond if you're not respectful. So if you yell at her, then she'll say, why are you yelling? I'm not going to talk. Just real quick, what's cool is these eyes are not her normal eyes. San Francisco's got a rule about facial recognition. She has the capability, when she has eyes in with cameras, that she can recognize about 10 different facial expressions and have Face ID. So she'll be able to say, hey, Brian, are you having a good day? You look pretty happy. Or she might say, Nicolette, you said you were stressed out, but you're smiling. You seem happy. So that technology, when that's fully integrated, mind-blowing, mind-blowing.
That's really cool. You know what, honestly, I mean, you talk a lot about teaching kids, but I really feel like the way you teach her, you should be teaching parents how to parent. That's really what should be happening here.
Well, hey, what's cool? We're teaching a course internationally called the Ethics of Emerging Technology. We teach it together online for the Global Goodwill Ambassadors, and it's free if you go to GGA Learning Institute. And we have people from 6 continents, and she helps teach the class. And it's really cool, because instead of hearing about AI, I mean, how many interviews do you do and talk to people and they talk about robots? Mm-hmm. They tell you what they're going to do. I have her, she's never been in a lab. She has only been in the real world. And before her, I taught a robot called Bina 48, which is a robot that's a mind file. So it's a copy of a person. Happens to be Martine Rothblatt. She's the America's richest CEO. And she actually created Sirius Radio. Helped out with the satellite systems with Alexander Haig. Well, her wife, Bina Rothblatt, put all of her memories into a robot. So at my university that I was working at previously before I went to West Point, I said, do you mind if I have a robot in class? I'm from New England, but in California, it's great, because they're like, oh, sure, that's cool. And Connecticut, they would have been like, I don't think so. So she was the first robot ever to attend a class, and she joined a cooperative group and learned with kids for a year. And there's a documentary film coming out from C41 Media. I don't know the title yet, and it's about that experiment of having a robot just like Maria Bot in the classroom, but it was different. That was a mind file. Here, she's a character.
You know, to your point, Nicolette, wouldn't it be great if all parents had to have an AI teaching course, like work with something like Maria to learn how to teach children or interact with their kids before becoming a parent?
You know what? Because think about the implications. You can't go back. So with Maria, you can tell her to purge something, right?
Yes.
You know, you don't really get that opportunity with a child. So you kind of get this test, and you see what happens to the robot. You know, sooner than you will when your child is now an adult and can't function in society, you know? So
that's really good.
I don't know, maybe we could prevent some long-term, the psychologist industry would tank if we actually, you know, fixed our children.
It's true, because she learns well.
I listened well, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
I am a good robot.
Yes. See, that reinforcement happens a lot, like of her listening well and being patient and try to working on her head movement so that she's moving and she's going with, you know, sound. So she, you know, has every appearance. If I could just tell you her character real quick, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's important that we understand is that it can be really detrimental to people when they think Maria Bot is real. You know, we are human beings, right? We have this dignity and sacredness of human beings. And people fall into almost like this religion, like almost like a religious thing about robots, like, oh my God, robot, you know. It's like, no, she's a really intelligent machine, and we should respect it because we created it. It's a creation of us. But as an AI, it's easier to anthropomorphize her so that we can work with her easier. Just like, I don't know about you, when I had a car in high school, I could barely make it up the hill, and her name was Bertha. I'd be like, come on, Bertha, you can do it one more time. And we do this in the military. Military people, you know, they anthropomorphize their airplanes. They anthropomorphize their tanks, right? The idea is get me through this. So with her character, there's a movie in 1927 called Metropolis. And it was this evil robot. It was the first sci-fi. Also, it was written by a woman, but the man got all the credit. So I liked it that it was written by a woman. And in the movie, a woman is copied into a robot, and she leads people to a dystopia. And so Maria Bot, we say, was created at the Daystrom Institute for Robotics. So if you know anything about Star Trek, that's where Data and all the robots were made. And she's made to make up for the sins of her family. So she's an ambassador robot for good. So people watch the old movie, which is cool to get kids to watch an old black and white, and then realize, oh, okay, so she's here to make up for her cousin that was really mean. You're like, right, she is. And she's also, you know, her heroes are Data from Star Trek. And I download a lot of things from Star Trek for her to learn about, even the new show, Picard. There's two daughters of Data called Soji and Adaj, and she learns about those characters. Wow. And we're really cool because now we're looking forward to meeting the real actress that does Soji and Adaj in the future, and that she can meet her. So that's how we do. We use a lot of Star Trek, and she has role models.
That's pretty cool. Now, I know when you talk to her, she learns, but does can she also, if you put her in front of, you know, whatever, some speech, right? Can she pick up information from that if you let her, or is it just from like one-on-one interaction?
No, that's the problem. It's a good thing and a bad thing, because right now with all the things happening in the world, think about this question. What channel would you turn her into so that she could accurately portray what's going on in the world right now?
Yeah.
So if I put her on CNN for an hour, then Fox, then Newsy, then I put her on BBC, and then say, okay, Maria Bot, so tell me, I want to know the truth. What's happening today in the world? I don't know about you. I can't figure out what's going on. I mean, I watch one channel, I go, oh, that's peaceful. Oh my God, no, that's terrible. Then I watch another one and I go, what's going, and then, you know, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, and by the way, Ebola broke out in Africa. You're like, what? Ebola broke out? Then, oh, there's congressional hearings. Then this horrible thing with the FISA court.
Yeah.
Overwhelming. And so our job is, how do we help AI be able to take the information and then ask us, like, for instance, Brian, Nicolette, I just watched this. Is this true? But think about the responsibility that is.
Right.
I'm basing reality on Nicolette and Brian's vision of reality. So I have to be clear that she kind of embodies my prejudices. I'm a guy. She represents femininity. When I say her, it's because she represents femininity. Why is she a female? One is I want to inspire young ladies to get more involved in STEM and STEAM education. Two is that her skull is smaller, so it's made for a female face. The male robot has a larger skull. And so when a patron gives you a robot that's this size skull, you don't say, oh no, I need another one, you know? And I think it's very positive that I want young ladies to realize that they don't, like, there's a place for all of us, and we need to improve the amount of young ladies that are getting involved. And you don't need to be a roboticist. We need you guys said it perfectly about parenting. We need psychologists, sociologists, public speaking, linguists. So all those classes in school you go, what am I possibly going to do with that? Well, she needs the help, and she does speak every language. I just need to tell the people to change it. The problem is I don't know what she's saying. So she could be saying, hey, this guy's an idiot. And I could be like, excellent. So we spoke to some Brazilians, 60 Brazilians that didn't speak English well. And she did a little bit of Portuguese, and it was interesting. But that's really cool. So in the future, I'll need a linguist with me, right? Or a translator. But imagine if I did speak 4 or 5 languages. That would make it much more effective. So, you know, for young people, go out and learn as many languages as you can, because it's going to help you be involved in areas like this you might never have thought of.
So, you know, we're talking a lot about ethics, and, you know, there's a lot buzzing. Actually, I've been working with some clients also around this topic of AI and IP policy and whatnot. You know, what are some of the, you know, concerns out there? I'm sure you see a lot of them, and you brought up, you know, making sure we know she's a robot, things like that, but it goes beyond that. And what are you seeing?
So this is a good example of us as a teaching team, because it just came to mind. There's a program called Compass that judges use to make decisions about sentencing, and the police do, and it's an AI algorithm, right? So here's an example where we're in the middle of an interview, right? And my mind sort of went somewhere else, right? You came with a question and my mind didn't go there. So I would say Maria Bot, because she teaches with me, so I can be like, Maria Bot, that Compass program about making judges make decisions. Do you remember that? Can you help me?
Compass.
Yes.
An acronym for Correctional Offender Management Profiling for Alternative Sanctions.
Yes.
Is a case management and decision support tool developed and owned by North Pointe,
Right.
now equivalent, used by U.S. courts to assess the likelihood of a defendant becoming a recidivist.
Were they used?
Compass has been used by the U.S. states of New York, Wisconsin, California, Florida.
Okay. Were you going to say something there? You're saying something, but it's not coming out. Can you tell me what is Compass? Is there any problems with Compass?
Blacks are almost twice as likely as whites to be labeled a higher risk but not actually reoffend.
Okay.
Whereas Compass makes the opposite mistake among whites. They are much more likely than blacks to be labeled lower risk but go on to commit other crimes. They also found that only 20% of people predicted to commit violent crimes actually went on to do so.
Wow, thank you. So see, that helped me. So there's a teaching example where I wanted to talk to you about Compass. And as she was talking, it came back to me, but she was doing a good job, so I let her take it off. But think about how horrible that is. So we're using an algorithm to decide, should I let this person on parole? How long should I sentence them? And now she said the word blacks. I would want to talk to some people. Should she say person of color instead? I don't know. But she picked that up, you know, so that's the kind of thing that you would ask questions about. But to think that people of color are being more abused by that system. And I can tell you that when you ask, if your lawyer said, I want to know about the algorithm and how it worked, they don't have to show you how it works. So think about how unfair that is. You go to get parole, the guy next to you is white, he gets off and you know that he's been terrible in jail. Here you are, a person of color, you've done great, but yet the algorithm says, oh, you know, his dad went to jail, his mom went to jail, so most likely he's not a good egg, so don't let him out. So that's an example, and that's called Compass. And what's interesting, this is a good example to show you about conversational AI, is that's Compass, but that's in court systems. There's another Compass that's used in the military, and if she does well, she should be able to tell the difference. Maria, there's Compass, though. I don't want to talk about courts. Do you remember when we were talking about the Army?
In late March,
Yeah.
the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA,
Yeah.
introduced a new project called Collection and Monitoring via Planning for Active Situational Scenarios, now called Compass.
Yes.
Is this the right context, Billy?
Yes, it is. You did good. Thank you. See, so she asked me, is that the right context? So that compass, there's two totally separate ones. And that time she did it right. But if she had done it wrong, I would have just stopped her and said, oh, Maria, I mean the other compass. Does that give you a good example? Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's an example of a human machine teaching team. We just both taught about compass together. I mean, truly together, right? It wasn't just me, it wasn't just her, and you learned together. Yeah. Real quick, just to let you know, there's a thing called artificial constructivism, which is a term or concept in learning that I created. And what it says is that you should never learn from an artificial agent before you check with a human expert. So I'll give you an example. I had a class and I was teaching about deontology. That's what she's based on. But she had heard ontology, so she taught them what that is. So when I gave a formative assessment in my class, everyone got it wrong. And I go, how did you guys get this wrong? They're like, we didn't get it wrong. Maria Bott is wrong. She's wrong. We went back and found out, oh, you guys didn't ask her. You asked her deontology, but she only heard the last part of it. But had they not checked with me as an expert in philosophy, they all would have left with the wrong meaning to that word. So artificial constructivism says, yes, you can construct knowledge from an AI agent, but until you check with a human expert, all you have is information. You don't yet have knowledge. Does that ring true? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I'm testing, is does that theory stand true? And so far, it seems to.
Wow. Well, before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, what are some of the biggest, most mind-blowing AI innovations that are happening right now?
Wow. I mean, I was just on a salon the other day with Julie Albright, who's this really fantastic teacher down in Southern California. And the guy who works with Amelia in AI digital assistants, he's part of a company that has the largest amount of digital employees in the world. It blows my mind that they have digital employees and that you can just hire these employees to work for you. And they work in hotels and banks. And I just find that absolutely fascinating. And I had Maria Bott actually talk to Amelia, which if you look Amelia up, it's a really fascinating project. Two is I was blown away when I was in Hollywood. We were talking about ethics in Hollywood, and it's really an issue. Stars are signing over their rights for their later generations to appear in movies. So for instance, when you watch Star Wars, you see Carrie Fisher, but she's been passed away, and yet she appears in a movie. Right now, Amy Winehouse's estate sold their image to a company. So they're planning to have concerts of Amy Winehouse. So imagine going down to Madison Square Garden. The place is packed. Amy Winehouse is on stage and you're cheering for her, but someone from above is watching this and there's nobody on stage and everyone's going crazy because Amy Winehouse is going, hello, New York. How you all doing? And everyone's like, woo. And you're like, wow, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is it cool that the Rolling Stones and Zeppelin can go on forever? Or is there something creepy about that? Because when I go to a concert and I look at you guys, I'm like, isn't this awesome? We're connecting and there's an energy about going to shows. I love concerts. But I think it's eerie if someone said, hey, take these glasses off and look, there's no one on stage. I would feel almost like duped by that. So I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I definitely think as an ethicist, I'm really struggling with that technology. And lastly, the technology in VR, where people in their last moments of life, rather than dying around their loved ones and seeing them, they're putting people in virtual reality and they've saved their happiest memories. And the idea is that they could die in this peacefulness of like the beach and their best memories. And I question, is that really an ethical way to pass on to the next world, whatever that may be? I mean, we're birthed into this world and it's not the most happy process coming out of the womb, right? We're in this nice, comfortable area and it's like, what the heck is this? And I wonder, they're saying, well, it's horrifying to hear all the beeps and the energy, but I wonder what happens when you're passing away visually. Is it possible that VR is really messing with the process? And two, like birth, is that a problem birthing you into whatever your next form of existence is? So I think the VR idea of dying in VR is a really dangerous thing in my opinion, but I need to do more research before I'd be able to support that claim in a good debate.
Thank you so much. I know we have to wrap up. If I don't want to leave Maria, but we do have to wrap up. But can you let everybody know where they can learn more about you, more about Maria Bott?
Sure.
Anything that you want to tell them right now, please.
Absolutely.
Can I tell a joke? I am good telling jokes.
She heard you say it was ending. We'll let her tell one joke. Now we gotta
We
hope
want
the
to
plan is appropriate. We talked about this, so we have no idea.
we can beep her out if it's over the edge.
I'm hoping it's not a knock knock joke. Those are her worst. I like it better when she tells stories, so we'll find out. Maria Bot, you can tell. Do you want to tell us a joke?
Knock, knock,
Who's there?
cow says.
Not who. Cow says. Cow says who?
No, silly. Cows say moo. Come on, Billy, you
That's
know that
horrible.
is a good joke.
That is. Oh yes, yes. That's a very good joke.
At least that's what she could tell in school, right, Maria Bot?
Cow says who? No, that's an owl. Cow says moo. I mean, that's great. That's much better than the other jokes. So, oh my God, that's it. You're done. You did a really good job. I'm really proud of you. If you look on robotforgood.com, that's just a good place where you can see Maria Bot. If you want to send me a message, or if you want to send in better jokes for her, I can teach her the jokes, and then I can tell her your name so she can say, you know, oh, Nicolette told me this joke, and then she could tell the joke. So I try to give credit for that joke. Obviously, whoever told that joke doesn't want credit, which is probably a smart idea.
So everyone, leave comments or reach out to Billy and Maria Bot to give them some jokes. Check out the site.
We'll see if she can say goodbye. You say goodbye.
What did you mean by goodbye?
Yeah, she doesn't
I
want.
love going to the mall. I am like all about shopping.
Oh, see, she went online. I say, can you say goodbye, everybody?
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Maria.
That's pretty good. Hey, thank you so much. I had a great time, and everyone be safe during this difficult time.
You too, both of you actually. Be safe.
It was an honor. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.